Good afternoon. My name's Jason Githens. I'm on the enterprise client team at Microsoft, working on Configuration Manager and Intune. And
I'm Christina Hotz. I'm a PM lead in the OS group, working on operating system upgrades and updates.
so I think maybe for the first time, well, the first time since I've been doing OS deployment presentations, being on the stage with Windows, because we've worked a lot together on Windows 10 deployments, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I'll just jump right into what we want you guys to get out of this afternoon session at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. So the key takeaways in upgrading to Windows 10 with System Center Configuration Manager, what we're going to go through today is look a little bit at the past. What are some of the key historical challenges with upgrade? I'm assuming by the number of people here that you know it's a challenge and you want some insight on how to make that less so with Windows 10. So hopefully we'll provide some good guidance of where we're going and where we've been working together to make that a great experience. Moving forward, we're going to look at some of the improvements in refresh and what is also called wipe and load models of deploying Windows, which will still be prevalent with Windows 10. But we also want to talk about the awesome new upgrade experience that we've worked a lot on over the past several weeks or months even, in conjunction with Christina's team and my team, and getting marrying together setup of Windows 10 as a great upgrade experience with Configuration Manager. And with Configuration Manager for current versions, we're not making you upgrade Config Manager to get this awesome experience, so that'll be a key point that we'll hammer home today. We want to also look at, Christina's going to talk about a real-world example of Microsoft IT's upgrade to 8.1 from 8 using the upgrade process, with some of the gaps we identified there and how we filled those gaps with upgrade, or how we want to fill those gaps with upgrade of Configuration Manager and in Windows 10. And then we're going to go under the hood and go up level or go down level, whatever the right level is. We're going to go a little deeper into under the hood of the upgrade experience. We're going to talk about the command lines that we call, some of the switches that are available to you to use. And Christina will cover that in depth and go through really how the process works. Then we're going to go into some of the deployment tools. I know there's a big interest in MDT and where we're going with that, so I'll tell you what we know at this time. It's pretty early in the MDT cycle, but I'll talk about our plans there and some of the high-level areas of investigation we're looking at. And we're going to talk also about a new tool coming out called the Windows Image Configuration Designer, along with the provisioning packages that provides as a complementary solution to MDT, Configuration Manager. Now there's also this WICD tool, which we just realized talking earlier that I guess it spells wicked, so it's going to be really good. And then the demos, we also realized was 3 plurals of demos, when actually we just have 3 demos, so it should read demo, and demo. But we will cover 3 demos, and so don't expect like 18 of them based on the aggressive wording here. But that's really what we want to get at today. And before I leave the slide, I do want to stress this upgrade path. I really want you to think about that, think of the questions you have there, think of the feedback you can have to help us make that better. We're making a big bet on this upgrade path to make Windows 10 the most easily deployable operating system with Configuration Manager yet. And we want your honest feedback there, things you think we need to think about, etc. So with that, I'll just go over the refresh challenge. This is not news to anyone in the room. This is just to set the context for what we're trying to solve in the future. It takes a long time. A whole wipe and load deployment, it takes a long time. There's productivity impact. There's a lot of image creation and customization that has to happen. The large content size, image and apps. Failures can be hard to recover from, and resulting in lost productivity, which makes customers uneasy about moving to a new version of Windows. There are complex processes around migrating data, user settings, apps, etc. And then the last one is we've really put our kicked ourselves for is the requirement of upgrading Configuration Manager to deploy the new version of Windows. We want to get away from, we are committing to getting away from forcing customers to upgrade to Configuration Manager vNext just to deploy the latest version of Windows, because we understand that's a very costly, or can be a very costly, expensive upgrade process, and we don't want that to be an impediment to the deployment of Windows in either refresh mode or the upgrade path. We want both of those to work back to 2012 SP1. I should mention a little bit about Configuration Manager 2007. We do want to support Configuration Manager 2007 from a compatibility standpoint. The SCCM client works on it. You can deploy apps and updates, but we won't be supporting OS deployment on 2007. Same as our stance with 8 and 8.1. So the improved refresh experience, or wipe and load. First, there's it should be Windows 10. I don't know what Windows 10 is. New Windows 10 ADK supporting N-3. In the past, it's been a common practice that it goes back 2 versions, which can make it problematic to support all of the operating system versions you may have in your environment. So with the N-3 model, the new ADK that releases with Windows 10 will go back to have full support of Windows 7, which is important whether you're using vNext, existing version of Config Manager. It allows you to have a mixed environment without having to manage 2 different ADKs. So it's a really important backport story that we're delivering in the Windows 10 timeframe. Also, and I can't stress the next one enough, support for Windows 10 deployments on your existing Config Manager version or infrastructure back to SP1 of 2012. That's one of the key promises that we just can't miss, and we've got to make a great experience, because when you see hopefully all the great enterprise capabilities coming in Windows 10 and you start deploying it, we certainly don't want Configuration Manager version issues or challenges to impede that progress towards Windows 10. We've got some driver management UI improvements that doesn't sound all that amazing, but it is what I'm going to demo today. I've got the very latest build of the next version of Configuration Manager, and this is one of the areas that we've completed our coding on, so I wanted to show it. This isn't a rundown of everything we're doing in OS deployment refresh to make it better, but I did want to give you a real demo on a real working version of the next version of Configuration Manager to show you one of the things we've checked in and done so far. And I feel it's a super helpful improvement to the driver management process, and I'll get more into that in the demo as to why what value that brings. We're adding branch cache support to WinPE. That'll be coming with the next version as well to help with the large payload problem of image deployments. Improved task sequence resilience for unknown reboots. That's the double reboot of the updates that can cause a lot of problems. It's been a long-standing bug that we were getting fixed. Also improved task sequence logging logic and around file size, how values are stored and retained. So some improvements there based on a lot of feedback we've gotten from customers and other sources. So that's a rundown of the improved refresh experience. And I'll jump into the demo from there. Okay, so I've already launched into from the drivers node into basically importing drivers. And first thing, for those of you familiar with this screen, and I will zoom in on it in a second when I give my little lead-in spiel here. If you're familiar with the driver import wizard of the process and applying those drivers into the boot image that exists today, it's not a very easy to use experience. You get a flat list of drivers, you can't sort them by architecture, you can't filter them by architecture, you can't filter them by whether or not they are signed or not signed. You just get a big list, and then you've got to muddle through these things and hopefully get the right drivers in there. It's not a super fun experience, particularly when you're talking about drivers that are going into the boot WIM, which is kind of an important piece of the whole OS deployment puzzle. So we've taken some fairly not profound UX improvements with this, but we have made some changes to make this a much more usable experience. And what you can see there on the zoomed screen is the couple of key options are to hide the non-boot critical drivers from the folder you imported from, and also hide drivers that are not digitally signed. And now, then later, when I add these to the boot WIM, you'll also see that we've carried that logic over and that usability experience over to that process as well, so you don't get the message that you've got the wrong architecture and go figure out which one's the wrong one. So that's one. This is one thing we've done. Again, this is not a complete list of everything coming with the refresh experience, but being pretty early in our development cycle, we have made some good progress in some of the key deployment DCRs that we've had over the years, and so we're knocking those out. And this is one of the more common feedback items we got is on the driver piece. I think we had several DCRs around this experience and how suboptimal it was. So I'll click through this. I'm just going to add these to a driver package. There's really nothing new in this workflow in particular. I'm going to skip the add driver to boot image at this point. And then the summary page is a lot cleaner too. You can actually see the drivers you've chosen. It's a little more easy to read than in the past. I don't have another build of R2 that I could show you the comparison, but if you're familiar with this workflow, hopefully this is resonating as a much better experience than it used to be. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to cancel out of this and move into, let's see, my next step, I'm going to add the drivers package to the boot image. So I'll go in here. One second. So what you can see on the top here, similar to what I showed before, is that you're able to hide the drivers by architecture that aren't boot critical, that aren't digitally signed, so you can really filter the driver set down to the ones that are relevant for this workflow, as opposed to the old process where it's pretty clunky having to pick the drivers and then guess which one's the right one and which isn't. So this lets you, for example, if I can uncheck these and you'll see more drivers pop up if there are any that fit the criteria. Yeah, there are. So they don't match the architecture. It shows me the architecture. I can sort by these three columns. So I can sort by architecture. Sorry, close your eyes for a second while I zoom it over. The class of driver, the architecture of the driver, whether or not the driver is signed. We also added this novel select all button to be able to pick the drivers or clear all of the drivers. And it's just again, not a profound change, but it's just an example of one of the changes we've done so far in the refresh experience for driver management. And we've got more in this class of changes we're making in the next version of the product as well. So that's just a quick overview of what we're done with drivers so far. There'll be more to come as we keep coding away on the next version of Configuration Manager, but I did want to show you something out of the current build, so that's what we have. Yeah?
Short question. Version. I can't see the version number of the driver.
Great question, and great point of feedback. I will take that back to, Aaron's going to hear about this. Okay, so we can come back over to the slides now.
All right. Well, historically, we've never supported upgrade in the enterprise. Some of you may have tried to upgrade to or from XP and potentially had a bad experience and realized why we didn't support upgrade in the enterprise. But since that time, we've actually done a ton of work to really improve the upgrade experience, to really focus on compatibility and to make sure that upgrade really worked well. Just curious, even though it's not officially supported, has anyone in this room attempted an upgrade to 8 or 8.1? And hopefully it worked well for you guys. Since it's dark, I'm just going to assume that it's all nodding heads. So when we were working on Windows 8.1, that's actually about the time that I joined the Windows deployment team. And MSIT came to us and said, hey, Windows 8.1 is coming out. You guys are working on it. You're building it. We just finished rolling out Windows 8 inside of our enterprise with a wipe and load, and it was really painful. We had to write a lot of scripts. We wrote custom tools to wrap those scripts. We got a lot of help desk calls because sometimes those scripts failed, and because you were first formatting the machine, then deploying the OS. If something went wrong, now you've got a machine that doesn't boot, it's not usable, and you have to send somebody to actually fix the machine and get it working again. So MSIT said, hey, you guys, why are you just saving upgrade for the consumers? We want to use it too. Can you let us upgrade? And they got Jason and I together in a room with our teams, and that was actually the very first time I met you.
Yeah.
So we said, yeah, let's figure this upgrade out. Let's give it a shot, let's see how it does, and let's see what lessons we can learn. And it was really, really promising. In the upgrade from Windows 8 to Windows 8.1, we saw a 97% upgrade success rate. MSIT did have a few standard images and a few standard systems. They were able to test those systems and validate that they worked. And once they were happy with the drivers and the applications, they kicked off the upgrade, and the results were fantastic. But it's actually the second number that I like even more. And that second number is the 48% decrease in help desk call volumes. And that's compared to the refresh scenario for Windows 7 to Windows 8. And one of the big reasons that MSIT thought we saw such the decrease is that one of the features of upgrade is a bulletproof rollback. So if something goes wrong during the upgrade process, we take you back to the state that you were in before the upgrade started. So if this is a silent upgrade, the user goes home for the night, we try the upgrade, something goes wrong, they return in the morning and find their machine in the same state that it was the night before. Well, maybe the applications have been shut down because it's rebooted a couple of times, but all of their data, their settings, everything is just the way that they left it. So they're none the wiser. And then MSIT is able to collect the logs, figure out what went wrong, fix the issue remotely, and then try again. So they were able to use standard deployment images. So they used the standard Windows 8.1 gold image. They didn't have to customize it and just pushed it out. The upgrade itself preserved the data, applications, and settings. No need for any scripts to do that. They used System Center Configuration Manager in order to kick out the upgrade. And they used the reporting and the data collection coming back from System Center. And the reports that they built out were really cool. Many pie charts and bar graphs and line graphs and any kind of chart you could possibly imagine. It was a lot of really good data. So really the bottom line was that the Windows 8.1 upgrade had a much lower cost of deployment than traditional operating system deployments.
But yes, we did learn some things that we had to do better. It wasn't bulletproof. We did identify some issues that we collectively started working through. Hence this conversation today, and all the weeks and months we've worked with the Windows deployment folks, Christina's team, and the configuration manager team to identify what can we do better in Windows 10. How can we make this even better? Make the percentages go up. Help desk call reduction, end user satisfaction, et cetera, et cetera. So I made this graphic. This is probably what I spent most of my time on with this slide deck because I thought it was pretty amazing. That's why I'm a program manager in a software company, not a graphic artist. But I wanted to get the point home is that the big problem, the biggest problem with the upgrade process that we saw in 8 to 8.1 is the configuration manager client getting basically run over by the upgrade process. It basically would see an operating system there, it would launch it, and then it would get knocked down and have to recover. And in that recovery period, it was essentially radio silence. What's going on? It's like the Mars rover. Goes through the Mars atmosphere, 10 minutes later, is it going to call back to NASA? Is it not? and you don't know what happened, right? And so until the client recovers, you're in this really dark period, like, I sure hope that worked. We just hit 10,000 users with that upgrade. And it was difficult to perform critical pre- and post-upgrade actions. I already mentioned the radio silence. There's complexity in managing key content like drivers, language packs, other applications, things like that. So it's, while it was, and Christina mentioned a lot of the scripting that Microsoft IT had to do to make this successful, to save our little logo from the big Windows truck as it rolled by. So those are the areas we focused on with this Windows 10 and Configuration Manager, the future deployment style, the future upgrade model. So the upgrade experience, I'll do a demo of this, and then Christina will go deeper into what this long command line is actually doing here. But it's a really deep integration of Windows setup with the Configuration Manager task sequence, taking some of the components of setup and actually revising setup.exe to work better in the task sequence context with the pre and post actions, and having that all run and work together without that truck coming through. Also, the drivers and language packs source through Configuration Manager in the upgrade flows, so they come out of the content services of Configuration Manager. And the point I made before with my beautiful truck is the client doesn't have to, well, it has to recover, but the recovery is not this, I just got knocked down, I don't know what happened. It's a much more intelligent, planned recovery process in the new model that avoids that radio silence, so you get that status all the way through the process end to end. You don't have the Mars rover problem where you wonder if your multi-billion-dollar project just crashed on a mountain. So, in the upgrade model, and it's another point I've made, but I want to make one more time, is that this does go back to 2012 Service Pack 1. What you're looking at is actually a screenshot from our R2 deployment of where we imported this. There are a couple command files that go with this process that Christina will talk about. And we are going to post a blog soon with some of the collateral we use in this workflow so that you have that. This is native in the next version of Configuration Manager, and I'll show you the native workflow experience that avoids having to write the very long command line switches there. But in the spirit of supporting it in both Configuration Manager 2012 SP1 up to the new version, we wanted to absolutely make sure that this upgrade process, this task sequence-based upgrade process, was importable into the existing versions of Configuration Manager. So I'll go a little bit deeper in that in the demo, and I believe next Christina's going to talk about what is on this crazy command line that I'm showing you here. I don't know how well you can see it from the back, but I think the next slide in text will be clearer. So.
And one thing I really do want to call out and stress too is that there's backwards compatibility with System Center, but we're also going backwards farther with the upgrade process. With 8 to 8.1, 8.1 only supported N-1, so upgrades from 8 to 8.1. This time around, we're going to support upgrades from Windows 7, 8, and 8.1. So you can update, hopefully, your whole deployment, because nobody's running XP anymore, right?
Does this work for servers too, or just for client?
So it's supported for client only.
So nothing changed.
No, we don't support architecture changes. So in order to upgrade, we'll do like-to-like architecture, and I can guess the next question is going to be how about going from BIOS to UEFI, and it's like-to-like there as well. So if you want to make one of those fundamental changes, you do go through the refresh process as opposed to the upgrade process. So here is the long command line switch that Jason showed on the previous screen, and this is actually the command line switch that MSIT is using right now to start experiment with rolling out the technical preview to our own users. And we are using this to upgrade folks from 7, 8, and 8.1. We did have a handful of holdouts on Windows 7 at our own company. So the first switch you'll see up there is the WAC Auto. And what that means is that we will automate the upgrade process. We'll pick all of the defaults for the UI, and we'll actually pick the defaults for the UBI as well, so that out-of-box experience. So going with the UBI defaults is actually new for Windows 10. For Windows 8 and 8.1, we would actually skip UBI, so we didn't set any of the UBI defaults. Now we set the defaults, but of course you can then set them to whatever you want as part of your task sequence. The next word after WAC Auto is telling WAC Auto which way that you want to deploy Windows. In this case, we're saying that we want to do a full upgrade. You can choose data only here if you'd like, or you can choose keep nothing. To me, that's not really an upgrade anymore, but it's an option. What the WAC Quiet does is it tells setup not to display any UI. So if you didn't say WAC Quiet, the user might see some UI going through, but they have no buttons to click. WAC Quiet just makes that all go away. The next one is compat ignore warning. So what this is doing is if there's an informational compat message, we just want to keep on going. So if we see something and it's not going to block the upgrade, we just continue on. You may decide that this isn't what you want to do, that you would actually want to force the failure so that you can see what it is and make some sort of decision. So it's completely up to you. Then the next three switches, these are the ones that I think are much more interesting, because this is how we make setup into a little bit less of a Mack truck, maybe into no truck at all, or at the very least a smart car. So the no reboot switch tells setup not to start rebooting as soon as it's ready. So we run in the down level phase, so that's all of the work that we do on the old version of the operating system. We run the compat scan, we expand the OS files, we change the boot entries, we do all of this work, and then as soon as we're done, we want to reboot right away, so that way the state of the system doesn't change. So in general, to end users, we want them to reboot as fast as possible. But if setup just goes and reboots on its own willy-nilly, Config Manager doesn't know what just happened. So by saying no reboot, we return success to Configuration Manager. It can do any shutdown steps that it needs to do, and then it can gracefully initiate the reboot. Now the next two switches are telling setup what to do after it succeeds, or in the case of failure. So this setupcomplete.cmd isn't a new concept. I'm sure a number of you have used it in your standard image deployments. You can put a setup.cmd inside of the image, and then after we finish deploying a fresh OS, we'll actually call this. Now, in the upgrade process, it's not a very good experience if you have to spin an image just to put setupcomplete.cmd inside of there. So one of the changes we've introduced is that we'll actually call setup complete, and you can put it wherever you specify on the command line. And setup complete runs as a system process, a system with system privileges, and it can launch other processes. In fact, the setup complete that we use, the first thing it does is it launches a PowerShell script because we all like PowerShell. And then very similarly, if there is a rollback, you can specify actions to take on the rollback. Anything? So here's a sneak peek of setupcomplete.cmd. I'm actually lying. This isn't really setupcomplete.cmd. This is the PowerShell script snippets from the PowerShell script that setupcomplete.cmd runs into. And this is actually what MSIT is using right now. This is similar to what we plan to post on the blog post. So the first thing that the command line does after we land in the new OS, so this actually triggers immediately after UBI, but before first user logon. So we trigger and we wait for the Configuration Manager client to repair itself on the new OS. We did just change all of the bits underneath it. It needs to recover from that. Next, we enable some health tasks. Then we start the task sequence back up again and wait for it to start. And then finally, we disable client provisioning mode. With that, we'll show you how it works.
Okay. Thank you. So the first task sequence I'm going to walk through here is just is one we've imported. It's showing all of it's showing the command line, the references to scripts, etc., the pre and post actions. This just give you a sense for a standard command line, a standard task sequence that could be imported to do all the things that we'll do natively in the next version of the product, but you don't have to have the next version of the product to run this. So this is just a quick overview of what we just looked at, and it's really no different. I just was going to run through just some of the components of the task sequence quickly. It's got the preparation steps, checking readiness, pre-setup, staging content. Then it's got the upgrade Windows step that has that command line referenced in there. Restart computer, install software updates, cleanup, trigger rollback failure. Pretty traditional task sequence steps, but just built around the new capabilities that Christina walked through, where setup handles these much more elegantly in its relationship to Configuration Manager. So not really new concepts here, just really the way that we interact with what they've written and added to Windows, and how the process is just much more kind of reliable. And then this is just the command line that we've already looked at. This is just embedded into the task sequence, and that's what gets executed from the Windows VNext Upgrade Media package. And pretty standard stuff. Nothing really that all that new here. Other than the way that, as Christina explained it, the way it all interacts with setup inside of Windows. What we have added, though, and this is the next new thing I can show you for the next release of Configuration Manager, is we have an out-of-box experience for this upgrade process as well, called Upgrade an Operating System from Installation Media, which basically does all the stuff that was in that last task sequence, but with UI-based switches, and doesn't make you go and figure out the command lines you have to write. It's a native UX experience. So if we pick that, let's call this test. I'm going to browse for install media and pick the Windows VNext or Windows 10 upgrade media. And I'm going to get an error here because the version is still showing us as 8.1, so we don't want to redeploy that, but it is a Windows 10 image. And I'll just go ahead and pick mandatory software updates, and I'm just going to skip applications for this. I get the summary, finish this, give that a second. And then I'm not going to go too deep into this. The main thing I want to point out is that there's not a window with a big set of switches and a set of that actually command line to reference at this point. It's basically what you pick in the UX and the edit task sequence properties sets all of those values for you. Some we will auto configure. Some are optional that you would set in the task sequence UX. But we basically form or build that switch set around your choices in UX. You don't have to go research that TechED article every time you want to, add command line switches to your deployment. So that's the big change. It's not that exciting to show, and it's and the one that I'm going to run next is actually running off the imported version. Just so when you see it come up, you'll know which one I'm running, and then it's not a whole lot to say about it other than it's just a native UX experience for what we just showed you for the import process. That's really the only point I was trying to get across there.
I think it's exciting.
Well, thanks, Christina. So now I will cut over to the Windows 7. That's not it. So again, we're in pretty standard territory for you folks familiar with OS deployments. We're just going to go to Software Center, pick the Windows VNext, Windows 10 upgrade, install selected, get the same warning. And that's just, there's really not much to show here other than it's going to kick off a standard task sequence status bar. And that's really, we could sit here for an hour and watch this, or I'll just cut over to another machine where it's a little further along. So let me resume. And so this is the experience after the task sequence wizard completes. You basically reboot into what feels like a standard Windows UBI experience, and the getting ready, the spinning dots. We can check in on this towards the end of the presentation to see how far along it's gotten. I don't know if it'll finish by the time we're done, but it is in the workflow here, and I compressed it a little bit by having two separate clients, but it's effectively the other client is now going through the upgrade process, downloading the media, everything else. This client has already done all that, and it's passed its reboot, and now it's in the getting ready phase. But this will end up at a Windows 10 desktop. That's our hope. So we'll check back in on that and see how that all worked after we go to the next couple slides.
Do you want to show any of the reporting?
Oh, thank you. I didn't get to that part on my demo script that's handwritten up here. So, and the point about the reporting I'm going to show here, and I'm not sure what the report's going to say. I haven't looked at it since I restarted the client. But this is the client. There we go. It is. So just to focus in on this, and this is really to bring the point home of, and this actually ended up at the exact right spot. All right, close your eyes again. I ended up in the wrong place and zoom it. Basically, this is the status of the client that I'm showing that's in the getting ready phase right now. And as you can see, the string there, the task sequence execution instance performed a system reboot. That's the point where the radio silence would hit before, and you're not really sure what's going on. The client's in this getting ready phase. Our client's getting up from getting run over by the truck, and we don't really know what's going to happen. With the combining of the scripts and the new setup.exe that Christina talked it through and embedding that into the task sequence, we've stopped that radio silence problem in a way that now that you're going to see the exact status all the way through end to end, the same as you would through a standard refresh deployment. So this is the actual status as we speak. This is not something I typed in earlier. So you can see that it does actually record status and report status end to end all the way through upgrade now. Thanks for the reminder. I almost missed that piece. So a little bit about, sorry, I forgot it was my turn. A little bit about MDT. We don't have a lot of details yet. The points I want to stress are there will be another version of MDT that's aligned with Windows 10. Windows 10 will have the new ADK N-3, and we'll build MDT around that version of the ADK, or at least the next version of MDT. We will have Windows 10 deployment support. We'll have Windows 10 upgrade support, similar to what we showed you in Configuration Manager. We will, at long last, be updating the task sequence binaries to the next version of the current version of Configuration Manager, not the 2007 version of the task sequence binaries. Removing a bunch of deprecated components nodes from removing deprecated components node from the workbench. Making LTI and ZTI more accessibility compliant, and all documentation will be on TechNet, no longer docx and chum files. So that's where we are now. That's not the end state of where we're going, but this is our starting point for MDT, our high-level goals. Unfortunately, I don't have a build or anything of MDT to show you today because we're still waiting on ADK to reach a state where we can actually start building around it. But just wanted to stress that it's still going to be there. It's still going to be free. It's still going to be a high-quality tool, and we've got a backlog of design change requests to make it better that we're going to go through. This is an example of some of those. And something new that I talked about at the start of this is the Windows Image and Configuration Designer tool, which Christina will now demystify what the heck that means.
And give you a break from speaking. So the Windows Image and Configuration Designer tool, that is a mouthful, can be used for two different purposes. One, to build a customized image, either for mobile or for desktop, or two, to create something new, something that we call a provisioning package, which is essentially a collection of settings that you can apply on the fly. So a provisioning package can contain a lot of things. You can all read, so I won't read the whole long list here, but you can use it for a variety of things, like setting up enterprise profiles to make it easier to connect to Wi-Fi, VPN, email. You can do things like set the desktop background, so that way everyone has a consistent background. Or you can use it to opt into a variety of other things. Once you have these provisioning packages, you can deploy them in a number of new ways. For example, you could put them on a USB stick and then go from tablet to tablet and activate these provisioning packages on each tablet, and then it would be customized the way that you like. You can also deploy them over USB, you can send them out over email, you could embed them in the image and then just tickle them when you're ready to use them and want to activate them. So there's a lot of power with this new concept. Of course, one of the questions that comes up is, well, it's great we've got this new tool, we also have all of our other tools, when do we use which one?
Great question. So we built a handy table to figure out when you use which of these solutions. So I'll run through this, and this would be great to get your feedback on whether this helps or this makes it more confusing. But this is the way we think about where in this ecosystem of MDT and Configuration Manager that the new WICD tool fits in. For building images, and a key additional functionality of this new tool is it also supports mobile. So configuring and applying Windows images on new desktop, I'm in the first row here. This is what we really think of as the OEM scenario, whereby we're trying to simplify how OEMs can build custom images without having to go through and just use raw ADK. And so this is really the target audience for the image creation capabilities of the new tool, or really that OEM level. For small organizations, we would expect them to use the tool to customize new desktop and mobile devices, and also to configure and apply Windows images on new desktop devices. And the use case is on the far right column. I missed that on the first one, but the use case is the provisioning package workflow. And let me pause on that because that gets a little bit confusing. So if you're familiar with iOS Configurator and the way that iOS Configurator injects basically a first run experience into the iOS device to put it into, say, supervised mode, think of the provisioning package like that. It's a vanilla image. It came from the store, or it came directly from the OEM without any customization. You can inject that provisioning package into that device so that at first boot, there's a service that runs, looks at this XML file, and then does all the configurations like installing modern applications or a VPN client or a Wi-Fi profile, and auto-enrolling it into Intune. There are multiple things that provisioning package can do, but it runs on a vanilla image. For example, you could put one of these on an NFC tag, and the bar manager at a chain of pubs could take a Windows device, tap the NFC tag, put the provisioning package on there, and it may be one he just bought at the store, and it boots into the desired configuration, gets on Wi-Fi, has all the certificates and everything he needs to get started and productive right away. So that's why we've broken this out by kind of small organization, mid-sized organization, large organization. But the big use case, the primary one, the new thing that doesn't exist today, that's not in conflict with or confusion with what MDT and Config Manager do, is that provisioning package size. The reason we call small organization for creating full image media is it's not a statement of necessarily the size of the organization as much as it is as the technical depth of the administrator at that organization. For example, think of an educational market or a school where the science teacher is also the de facto IT guy, probably can't spell MDT. So this would be the tool whereby he could do that workload of doing the new image creation using this much more simplified tool. Doesn't have all the richness of MDT, can't do all of the, it doesn't have the power and the scriptability, but it's a click, 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 deploy an image, and this looks like the right thing that I need. Mid-size organizations, we still expect there'll be MDT and Configuration Manager usage. That was me ringing it, like that's embarrassing. Um, the mid-sized organization can, we still expect MDT, Configuration Manager, but we would see that the WICD tool would be for creating provisioning packages for customized mobile devices, and also to create media for images on. It's really, I'm fumbling through this. The mid-sized organization line's really an either or between the two tools, just depending on their level of technical need and depth. And then the last line, or the last box I have here for large organization is really, we still expect that to be MDT, Configuration Manager, just because of the needs of the custom image of that organization. But we do still expect to see uptake of the provisioning package model there, which is the vanilla device. You put a basic, not basic, but you put a run once setting on there, and it configures the device for first use. Really for the vanilla image case. Again, go back to that bar example. The bar manager taps a brand new device that he ordered online onto the NFC tag, gets the provisioning package, has the Wi-Fi profile certificates, the key apps that he needs, and rolls it into Intune, and the device is business ready from the first boot experience after the NFC tap. So that's, and then the last note at the bottom is that they're not necessarily exclusive use of one tool or the other. You can mix and match them. You could embed a provisioning package in your custom image that you built with MDT, for example, and have that run at the first boot of that image. You can cross. There's some crossover here, so they're not necessarily tight boundaries around all the tool sets. They are interoperable, and there may be scenarios that we haven't even thought of yet where you might want to use a combination of the tools to achieve your imaging requirements. So that's hopefully a somewhat not completely confusing overview of how the tool sets interop with each other, but they do have their unique markets that they're being targeted for, and also different use cases associated with them. So, and I think we have a demo of this hot off the press demo of the ICD tool.
There goes a very hot off the press demo. So here you can see that we have the Image and Configuration Designer, the Windows Image and Configuration Designer tool, and there's just a lot of settings and groups of settings that you can actually put inside of your provisioning package or your image. Here I've already opted into doing a provisioning package, and I'm going to set the desktop wallpaper, something that I know that works, and something that has some good visual impact as well. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's just put it on the desktop. All right, so now we see the TechEd demo right there. Let's minimize this. So let's imagine for a second that I just broke my laptop and I need to get a new one quickly, so maybe I ran out to the store and I purchased one. But now I want to bring it into the enterprise and have all of the enterprise settings and be able to connect to Wi-Fi, VPN, all of that good stuff. So I've got this laptop that's still Lenovo system image, and then simply double click this provisioning package. It wants to know if there's permission to install it. I'll say allow, and now it's the Microsoft image. Yay!
And it does more stuff too, I think. But we're gonna start with wallpaper. But imagine embedding that payload, on a share, in some kind of workflow, even in an email from your IT department. You double-click that as a user, the NFC tag, USB, tethered. There are multiple ways to inject that payload into the device. So as a first boot experience, you end up with a configuration that is just business ready. That's the best way to put it. So. Are you going to bring it all together, Christina?
Sure, I'll bring it all together. So first and foremost, we really want to stress that Upgrade is now a first-class citizen, and you should try it. You can all try it right now. Download the technical preview build and upgrade your standard image. Let us know if it works. It should work. Refresh, of course, is still an option. Supported over VPN. Make sure you have physical access to the machine and give it a shot.
And let us know.
So of course, refresh is still an option. We're not taking away any tools. We're expanding the toolbox. So you can pick whatever option works best for you, your customers, or your enterprise. So we're making new tools, giving you more options, and making the existing tools even better. Anything you want to add?
No, I hope that hope the upgrade thing is resonating. I hope that you'll at least give it a shot, give us feedback on it, and when, and I'm not sure we have a date yet, but when this tool is available, that you kick the tires on the tool and give us feedback on it. Your feedback's super important to us on this process all up, and let us know things that maybe we missed or we can do better, because we do have a little more time to still tinker. So, but we wanted to focus. I know we didn't take up our full slot, but we really wanted to focus on the newest stuff that we have, and that's what the goal today was, the new stuff, and in whatever we can show in the next version of Configuration Manager, because I know that's an important tool for a lot of you. What we can show you with Windows 10, where we are so far. This is probably a pretty early reveal for a lot of this stuff relative to the past, so I think we're making really good progress, and these were all working demos on real builds, so it's encouraging. But we'd love to get your feedback and have you guys give it a shot. And I don't have a link for the blog post, unfortunately. It's not posted yet, but it'll be in the System Center blogs, and just search for it over the next few days, and that'll have all the content. That'll have all of the commandlets and everything that we showed here, as well as the importable task sequence. So
do you want to see how the upgrade's doing? Maybe we can leave that up while we take some questions. Before we do take questions, though, I'll show you the
It's setting up a few more things.
So related content. Do you want to step through these?
Well, I mean, this is the standard related content slide. I don't think there's anything really tied directly to OS deployment that's super interesting. I'm doing the one on Friday at 8:30, which will be really interesting, so you should come to that. Try to have my jokes more improved by then. But yeah, so this is just in our track of enterprise client. This is our stuff. And there's a ton of Windows manageability stuff that you guys should hit. I mean, it's amazing what the enterprise capabilities that are going into Windows for this release. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So those are really worth going to. There's a lot to process there.
And then after this session, we'll be down at the Windows booth, the Microsoft booth. You can find us probably near the management section, taking questions. And I will be there on Thursday from noon until 2, I believe it is.
And I'll be at the Config Manager booth 2 to 5 on Thursday. So with that, I guess we will open up to questions. Thanks for your guys' time. I appreciate it.